Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Paris in spring, and I'm sipping on some cherry tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you'll find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, Mars black, magenta, deep yellow, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, and ultramarine blue. And of course you can switch up those colors, but that's what I will be using. For my tools today, I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 6 round synthetic brush, and I have a number 0 round synthetic brush, and I may refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process, or I will just call them out by name. And of course you can switch those up if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as some kind of towel. I use a paper towel for drying my brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to paint a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 6 round to pre-mix a custom color. The colors I'm using in this step are brown and white, and I'm going to pre-mix myself a tan color, and we'll use that as the base coat for the canvas predominantly. We'll get it to go a little bit lighter in the center, darker at the top and at the bottom. So I have pre-mixed my tan color here on my palette, so you can see where I am headed as I show you how to make this. How I achieve this is mostly white and just a little bit of brown. So I'm just going for a light tan color to use as my base coat of the canvas. So this way it in essence kind of tones the canvas, allows me to have really a lot of warmth to my composition, and it also helps start the process of actually painting the sky and the ground and all that good stuff. So that's where I'm headed with my tan. You can see the difference between it and my white. So it's a couple shades darker than white. So once I've got the desired shade of tan that I want, what I'm going to do, I put my mixing tool away, take out my large bristle brush, and I'm going to be painting my canvas predominantly with this tan. I'm going to get it to go a little bit lighter in the middle, and I'll do that with some white on my brush with my tan, or with my dirty brush I should say. But for the most part, you could, if you wanted to, paint the entire canvas with this tan, but I'm going to start a gradient, which means I'm going to get it to go a little bit lighter in that middle area, so that way I have the start of my sky, which I'm going to have a little bit lighter as it goes down towards the horizon. So this is where I'm going to pick up some white on my dirty brush. So what'll happen is I'll have this little bit of a lighter section towards the middle of my canvas. So just a little bit of white on my dirty brush allows me to get this lighter area in the middle, and it doesn't have to go all the way white. I don't want mine to go all the way white because I do want to have the ability to have other white aspects of my painting pop out. And for me, if I make this background I'll lose the ability to have, or I'll lose some of the ability to have other details as prominent as I want them. So mine's still a little on the light tan side as I come down in through here. And now I can just pick up a little bit of white plus my tan as I go work my way down towards the bottom of my canvas. And I'm just using a left to right brush stroke. I just picked up just tan right now. I'm just using a left to right brush stroke with follow through. So I don't stop my brush halfway. I just kind of lift it off the canvas as I'm doing this. Kind of like a left to right crisscross type of brush stroke to get those colors to blend a little bit. And then I just keep on picking up my tan, bringing that all the way down to the bottom of my canvas. You could also take this color and wrap it around the edges of your canvas, the exterior edges. That'll make your project look nice and complete, and that you paid as much attention to the outside of your canvas as you did to the inside of your canvas. So that's just a little tip to make it look a little bit more professional and fully executed if you don't plan on framing it. And then once you've got this done, I just kind of go lightly back and forth with my brush with very little bit of pressure to work out any really thick spots, or maybe to soften that blend a little bit. And then we're going to be using the same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the sky. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are tan, brown, and white. And I do recommend that your canvas is dry before this step as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a gradiated sky that has a little bit of kind of floaty clouds in it. I'm going to bring my sky a little bit past my halfway point. So if this is about my halfway point, I'm about 1.5 inches below that. So I'm going to just take a tiny bit of brown paint or a tiny bit of white paint and give myself just a little tick mark to know where to stop my sky. And I can use my brush as a measuring tool. See how far down I did that mark? I can go to the other side and give myself a mark at about the same height. This way, this gives me a visual stopping point. I'm going to be using brown plus my tan at the top, so it has a little bit more atmospheric dimension. And then I'm going to put in some little floaty clouds, and then I'm just going to do a second layer on the rest of the sky, so it looks nice and soft. The sky is not our focal point in this painting. It is just atmospheric dimension, and I want this to be very painterly, so that's why we're not using traditional colors for our sky. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of my brown plus my tan on my brush, just a little bit of each, and I'm going to start up here in the top left hand corner. I'm going to be using a circular type of brush stroke probably for the majority of this step, so it looks really airy and soft. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that brown plus my tan. So what this is doing is it's just creating a little bit darker version of that tan. And that looks pretty good to me. And I like to, as I'm doing my skies, not go super straight horizontal. So you'll see I kind of go at angles. Now I'm going to pick up some of my tan and on my dirty brush and just kind of soften that transition from the darker color into the mid-tone color. And here's where, as I'm coming into this light zone, where I can say, okay, maybe I just want a little floaty cloud there or a little floaty cloud in through here. Nothing super invasive, just something that's going to give a little bit more dimension to it. And then I can pick up a tiny bit of white paint on my brush and kind of go in between these clouds, just really allowing for an airy type of feel to this sky. So this way, it's not just one solid color. It allows the viewer to kind of contemplate whether it's a rainy day or a sunny day, because we're not using traditional colors on it. They can kind of use their imagination to decide what type of day this is. You could even pick up a little bit more white, and you could even put a couple of additional kind of atmospheric clouds in there. That was too much paint, so I'm just wiping my brush off. and just allowing this to kind of soften into that sky. So it's really going to be up to you how dramatic or how soft you want that sky to be. I do have it, again, a little bit darker up at the top. I've got these nice drifty clouds down here, and then I just kind of keep picking up white just to make sure that I get a full coat on my sky, a full second coat on top of what I did in that initial layer. I just picked up some of my tan because I've got a spot right here that needs a second coat, and I didn't want it to go too light. So that looks pretty good. And then you can just fiddle with it. You can really make it as, again, dramatic or soft as you want. You can see mine's got some light spots and some dark spots. Again, just kind of insinuating some nice drifty clouds, but it's darker at the top and lighter down at the bottom. And then once you've got this step done, we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting a base coat for the land. So this is going to be all of the land, where the distant city is going to go, where our park is going to go, where our road or path is going to go. So everything that has land on it, we're going to do base coat. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to, again, use my number 6 round as a mixing tool. The colors I'm using in this step are all of them. I'm using black, white, magenta, yellow, brown, and blue, and I'm going to pre-mix myself a lavender color and a light yellow color. So I have pre-mixed those two custom colors here on my palette. This right here is going to be my lavender. How I achieve this is blue and magenta. That will make purple, and then I add white and black, which will be gray, to desaturate it and make it a really nice soft color. So the blue and magenta is going to make a really deep purple color, and then I'm going to need more magenta than that. And then what I do is I add a little bit of white and a touch of black and spin it all together, and this is going to give me a really soft lavender. So I can see by just spinning this in this little concentrated area that this is darker than this. So I'm going to attempt to just put white in it to see if if I can get it as in the right tonal value, but I might need to adjust the other colors as well. So I'm just kind of spinning this around, seeing if it's going to work out. Oh, it is going to work out for me. Maybe a little bit more of my magenta. And I just kind of keep adjusting it until I get it into the value and the color that I want. Maybe a little bit more white. And there we go. That works out for me. So that's going to be my lavender. Just spin it all completely here. And then my light yellow, I'm going to create using brown, yellow, and white. So this is my light yellow in through here. It's kind of like a golden light yellow. So brown, a little bit of yellow. The yellow is very powerful, so you don't need a lot, and then a good amount of white. So the white, I definitely want it on the lighter side. And then again, I just kind of spin it around and see if I need to do anything else to it. So compared to this one, this is a little bit darker and browner, so I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to it and more white. So just knowing when you start to mix the color, how to adjust it, that's a really good tool to have in your box, is to be able to see a color and say, okay, I just need to, that's not yellow enough yet, so I'm going to add a little bit more yellow, and it's still a little dark, so I need a little bit more white to it. And those, skills will really help you develop your paintings, because you don't have to rely upon the color that comes out of the tube. You can really start to develop your own palette and things that, oh, and you know what else I did? I forgot, I was like, why is this looking a little different? I added a touch of magenta in it because it's a little tiny bit too greenish for me. So brown and yellow will tend to have a little greenish hue to them. So you can counteract that by adding a tiny bit of magenta, and that will help to cut that. There we go. That's where I'd like to go. So now that I've got this color in through here, I'm going to put my mixing tool away, and I'm going to start with the lavender color, and I'm going to put that where I put those little white tick marks for my sky. I'm going to just kind of go remark those two. And then I'm going to come down about almost a little bit more than halfway between here and the bottom of my canvas. So my halfway is about right here. I'm going to make a little tick mark a little bit below that one. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the left-hand side. So again, you could kind of measure yourself if you wanted to, like that. And then come to this side and give yourself another marker. And then this whole area between these four markers, I'm going to just paint with this lavender color. So yours might be lighter or darker than mine. It might have more magenta in it. It might have more gray in it. Whatever color it turns out to be is okay, because again, we've got additional steps that we're going to do on this. As I get towards the top, I'm not concerned about it being anything other than a line, but it doesn't even have to be a firm line at this point. Most of this left-hand side is going to be hidden behind our tree line. The only part, as well as the right side, the only part that's really going to be visible on this horizon line is a section like about this big. So, and even that area doesn't matter if it's perfect at this point, because you're going to be putting a skyline, a city skyline in that area. So we're just really looking to tone the canvas in through here with this purple, this lavender color, and then we will add a lot of details on top of it. And even in through here, you can see I kind of went up a little bit in my section, which is fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush. Washing and dry my brush. And I'm going to use that light yellow color in a little section that's going to be our like park grassy area. So I'm going to come down to this bottom left hand corner, and then I'm going to go, if this is the center of the bottom of my canvas, I'm about halfway between that and the right hand side of my canvas, so about a quarter way over and up to where it meets the lavender. And I'm going to connect this mark to this mark, and then this little section in here is going to get this gold color. So something like this. And again, it's going to bonk into that lavender, which is awesome. And then what I'm going to do, I have one little section left to go here. This is going to be where kind of our road is going to go, and there's going to be just some other, you know, I feel like I want to put a little bit of this color over here too, because this is going to be like a grassy area over here too. So let's put a little bit of this over here. And then I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm just going to use my tan color with maybe a little bit of white to put the second layer on this road here. So wash my brush. I'm going to pick up some of my, oh, I didn't say I was using tan. So I'm using my tan. I'm going to just put a second coat here, make sure it's fully rendered so I don't have any unpainted spots later when I'm trying to get my details done. And then I can pick up a tiny bit of white and just kind of get some of this center area to be a little bit lighter. So without washing my brush, I just picked up a little bit of white to get a little bit of this center area whiter or lighter. And then we are going to be using, I would like to use my number 6 round brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your large bristle away, take out a medium round, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're painting the distant city. I'm going to use my number 6 round brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 0 to premix 3 more custom colors. The colors I'm using in this step are tan, white, black, blue, and brown. And I'm going to premix myself a light lavender, I don't know if I said I was using lavender too. Lavender is in this as well. Light lavender, a gray, and a light blue. So I have magically created those colors on my palette here so you can see where I'm headed. So this first, I almost just lost my canvas there. This one here is my light lavender. How I achieved this is I used my lavender, I added a bit of my tan to it, and a touch of white. So I'm just lightening it up a bit and making it a little bit warmer. So that's where the tan is going to come into play. That's a little bit too much tan, so just a little bit more of my lavender and white. And this is just going to be an accented color throughout the city, making for some buildings to pop. That's going to be my light lavender. The next color I'm going for is gray, which is right here. So this is a it's mid to dark tone gray, and how I achieved it is just black and white. So black with a little bit of white. You can always use your dirty white for something like this. That's a great way to get use out of your dirty white on your palette. So something like that, maybe a little bit lighter than that. And this is going to be representing a lot of my darker tones within the city. So I just want this to be a really muted, off in the distance city with a lot of soft tones. So I'm not going to be even using black in my city. So this will be my shadowy tones. I'm going to wash my mixing tool, and then I'm going to make my light blue, which is right here. How I achieve this color is ultramarine blue, brown, a little bit of brown, and some white. So this is going to give me a nice neutralized light blue color that will be great for making the distant horizon skyscape or cityscape. A little bit more blue there, a little bit more white. Get it into make sure it reads as a bluish tone and not just a gray tone. There we go, that works for me. So those are the custom colors I'm going for. So once I've got those, I am ready to start painting. So my city is, we're gonna take up kind of a, probably, if this is about half of my canvas, it's maybe about a third of the width of my canvas. So I'm gonna give myself a couple of markers to kind of separate out where it's gonna go. The edges of the city are gonna be hidden by all of our trees. So I don't need to do this whole big elaborate cityscape when only part of it is going to be showing. So I think I'm going to pick up a little bit of my light blue to start so I can give myself some markers. So I'm going to find myself the halfway point on my horizon line and then go to the left about 1.5 to 2 inches, give myself a marker, and then on the right hand side I'm going to be almost halfway between here and the end of my canvas. So this is about halfway. I'm a little bit to the right of that. That's another marker. And then it's going to kind of come down at an angle. So I'm going to come straight down from here about 1 inch higher than my than where the grassy area is. Give myself a little marker, and then I can just kind of take this light blue and just kind of swivel it around to connect these sections. So that's about as big as my city is going to be. Now I'm going to pick up more of that light blue. I'm going to use a lot of light blue up at the top of my city. I'm going to use it with white and maybe a little bit of that gray in order to give myself the illusion of little buildings. I'm just really popping up my brush in various areas to just give the illusion of buildings back there. You can make this whatever way you want. You can have something that resembles a church by putting a tall steeple type of look onto it. You can have industrial type of buildings by just doing rectangles. You could have lots of skyscrapers, but I don't think Paris has a lot of skyscrapers. Now that I'm saying that out loud, I don't think you want to do a bunch of skyscrapers, but you can certainly do lots of churches and, you know, just low-lying European buildings. So I've got my blue on up in through here. I'm going to now pick up a little bit more of my blue and just kind of sporadically put little sections throughout this other area and through here. Up at the top, now that I've got some blue kind of sprinkled within the rest of the landscape too, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a touch of white on my dirty brush so I can kind of soften some of this edge up at the top of that of the landscape. So hardly any paint on my brush. I'm even wiping it off a little bit just so I can have some soft tones without it going all the way white on me, and I can just kind of lighten some of those sides of the buildings, or even, you know, just pop in just little marks. This is one of those steps that it's very free flowing. I'm doing kind of a lot of horizontal lines. I'm mark making. Now I think I'm going to go into my gray that I created, and I'm going to put a whole bunch of darker marks in through here. I'm trying to make it look more like a city by making horizontal and vertical marks, as opposed to like a forest where I would do a lot of almost tree type of soft marks at the top. So that's going to be the difference for me when I'm doing a cityscape versus a landscape, is I'm using different mark making. So I'm doing more horizontal and vertical marks. They're smaller up top and a little bit bigger as it gets down towards the bottom, because this part would be closer to the viewer. So that'll mean I can make bigger buildings because they're closer to the viewer, and you can really, you know, have fun with however you want to make them. I think that's good for the dark gray. So I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to wipe it off on my paper towel. I'm going to pick up some of my light lavender and start kind of introducing that into the equation. You can also pick up your regular lavender. So I can, if there's areas that I don't want to go super light, I can just pick up a little bit of the light lavender or the original lavender and just kind of add that into there. So again, I'm really right now switching back and forth between my lavender and my light lavender to kind of fill in the rest of these spaces. And then once I've got a good second coat on it, then I can decide whether or not I want to do any more detail to it, which I think I might put a little bit more detail in these buildings that are close to the viewer. I'm going to pick up a little bit more gray too, because I feel like I want a little bit more darkness, or the illusion of a couple of more buildings off in the distance in through there. So that looks pretty good. And again, this is going to be hidden with some trees. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my light lavender, because I kind of want to wash out this area over here. This is going to be behind my the corner of the Eiffel Tower. So I want the corner of the Eiffel Tower to pop out a lot. So I want this to be a little bit lighter on this left-hand side. So that looks pretty good. I'm feeling like that's pretty city-esque. So now I'm going to maybe put a little bit more detail on some of these guys in the front. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white paint on my brush. And you can have all kinds of fun with this, with the ones that are close to the viewer. You can even kind of put little windows in it if you want to. You can give yourself a cool kind of architectural type of building that's got, you know, more information to it. You can pick up more of your dark color to accentuate shadows. You could put a roof on one if you wanted to. You could put maybe just a little kind of roof like that. You can put, again, windows, whatever you feel is going to kind of propel your cityscape into something that is pleasing to your eye. I feel like I want a couple more light buildings in through here, so I'm just using my dirty brush with a little bit of white paint in it on it, so I can get just a couple of little highlighted spots in through here. And I'm just mark making. I'm going horizontal, vertical, giving myself the illusion of just little buildings here and there. Nothing too invasive, just something that gives the impression that it is perhaps a little bit of a city off in the distance. And then once you've got it into a place that is pleasing to your eye, again, fiddle with it as much as you feel is necessary. We're going to be using, I would like to use the my small number 0 round for the next step. So once you've got this done, fiddle with it as much as you want, put this brush away, take out a small detail brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the Eiffel Tower. I am using my number 0 round. The colors I'm going to use are black, gray, lavender, and white. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So I'm going for a very loose kind of Eiffel Tower here. I don't want to get hung up on the details. I just want a nice painterly impression of the Eiffel Tower. So we just really need a big, tall, skinny triangle. So I'm going to guide you through mark making. We're going to make a couple of marks. We'll connect those marks, and by the time we're done, we'll have something that resembles the Eiffel Tower that's hopefully standing straight up and not leaning like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So I'm going to start with my gray color with water. So I'm thinning out my gray. I think I said I was using gray. I'm thinning out my gray so it's almost like an ink consistency. This is going to be the base color that I use for the Eiffel Tower, and then we'll add some strategic highlights and shadows. So I'm going to have mine overlapping this corner of my city. So I'm going to go a little bit to the left, maybe about 1.5 inches to the left, and give myself a mark. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my number 6 round brush as my measuring tool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure how far away from, I should probably do it this way because that's a sturdier hold for me, how far away from the edge of my canvas I made that mark. And then what I can do is I can go up as many times as I need to and make subsequent marks at that same distance away from the edge of my canvas. I'm going to go until I'm probably about, let's see, 1, 2, 3 inches from the top of my canvas, so somewhere in through here. And then I'm going to connect those marks with a vertical line. So when I do something like this, I am keeping my eye on the prize, which is the next marker. And if this doesn't turn out super straight, I'm okay with that because I'm going to be making a whole bunch of hatch marks and X's and all kinds of disguising little marks that will help me prevent somebody from noticing my line was too crooked. But that'll give me at least something vertical and not leaning over. And then once I've got that in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of other markers. So from here, I'm going to go to the right about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, somewhere here and here. And then I'm going to go up about almost halfway up this line. So maybe somewhere in through here is where I'm going to go. And starting from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect my line from this center and give myself a really long rectangle somewhere in through there. Then I'm going to add more paint to my brush, this thinned out paint, and I'm going to go to the left of here, probably about maybe 1/2 inch, and then to the right about 1/2 inch. And I'm going to do the same thing, connecting kind of this area, disconnect it to get down to these guys in through here. So somewhere in through here, I'm going to start to disconnect it like that. Reload my brush, and then bring this down like that and connect it to that marker in through there. So we're going to do it one more time. This is going to be maybe a little bit further out. Whatever distance you did here, maybe bring it out just a little bit further out to the left and to the right. And this is going to be the wide exterior of the structure. We're going to bring it down a little bit farther on the right hand side, but I wanted to just kind of start here so we didn't get lost in our drawing. So I'm going to go up to the top of my tower and come down maybe about 1.5 inches, give myself a little horizontal line like this, and then that now becomes my connector to these bottom two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of ride down straight for a while until I'm almost about at this meeting point or this kind of intersection point, and that's when I'm going to start to pull it out and drape it out to get to my exterior feet of the tower. So here we go. And I have a shaky hand, so I rest my hand on my canvas as I go along, and I'm not pushing my brush very hard. So just kind of bring this down. And then right about here, I start pulling it out, keeping my eye on the prize, which was that last marker over there. And then I'm going to do it on the left side, and it's always easier on one side versus the other side. So as you're doing yours and you're finding one side is easier than the other, you're not alone. So just kind of whatever happens, happens. And I start to disconnect this somewhere about here. And I can see I'm on the struggle bus right now. This is left-hand side. That's okay. We'll get all of this to be disguised by the time we're done. And then just pull it out to that left-hand side. There we go. So now I want this right-hand side to be a little bit farther down. So I'm just going to kind of extend this over my city line in through here. This is, again, is going to be, we're going to make some marks here, and there's a tier of the tower that we've got going right in through here, so this will hide this whole part right here. So we've got the structure on now. I just need to give myself a little bit more information up at the top, so I'm going to go about halfway between here and here, give myself a little kind of dome, and then I can just bring this down and then maybe just bring it out for a little observation deck, color that in, and put a little tiny ball at the top, because airplanes need to see it. So something like that. So now that we've got that main thing on there, we got to do the observation deck areas. So there's one definitely that's going to come right in through here. And this is going to be kind of overlapping just this little corner of your city. And I'm going to bring it right down to where that purple is. We're going to have trees overlapping this. So again, this is one of those areas. Doesn't need to be perfect because this left side is going to be covered up with trees. So I'm just going to paint this in with my gray right now. I'm going to put some a little bit of detail on it in a minute, but I'm going to start just with that. And then my next observation deck goes about a third of the, almost like, if this is halfway up to my tower, about halfway between that and here, and this guy, which is where the next kind of observation deck is. So somewhere in this vicinity, and you just need to pop it out just a little bit on the left and the right. And you can really have whatever kind of details that you want. It doesn't have to be exactly like the tower itself, but if you want it to be pretty similar, you could certainly look up photo references that can help guide you into it being a perfect replica, but I'm just going for a very painterly fun thing today. I feel like that could probably be a little bit lower, but that's all right. Maybe we'll just bring this down a little bit lower. That looks good. It's probably a little crooked too. That's okay. So now that I've got that, now I'm going to do a whole bunch of X marks. So I first want to get this center. These two areas right here are one section. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of X marks with my gray in this area here. I'm going to do it on the legs, the left and the right leg. So all I'm doing is a bunch of diagonal marks, and then I go in the other direction and do a bunch of diagonal marks in the other direction. So I'm not concerned about them looking like they're even connected or anything like that. I just want it to make it give the illusion that it is some kind of metal structure that has this X type of metal work to it. I want it solid enough so it so we see a little bit of the sky behind it, but it doesn't have to be 100% solid. And I need it to connect to these edge marks, those exterior lines that we made. So I'm just making sure that that happens. and then I just kind of, oops, I just went outside my lines, that's okay. Make a whole bunch of those X marks. I'm gonna do the same thing up top. Again, just with my gray paint. So I'm gonna just kind of quickly kind of make these sporadic diagonal marks in each one of these sections. And again, I've got my gray with a little bit of water on it, so this helps me to just make a bunch of tiny little marks quickly. I'm going at an angle, and then I'll go ahead and do the other angle. So just think of it as a bunch of chaotic little X's. And if you smush some of them together like I just did, it's okay. We're just trying to give an illusion here. So once I've got that, I've got a bunch of little X marks. Now I can start building some little details. So I'm going to pick up some black paint on my small brush, and I can put little shadows underneath this observation deck. So I can bring a little bit of black in through here. I can even bring a little bit of black into those X marks. So that'll make it look like those areas are a little bit shadowed. I can put maybe some shadow on this guy in through here. I just ran through some wet gray, which is great. That'll just make it look like it's got more to it. You could put some fun details at the top of here. Whatever you feel would allow you to give it some good dimension. I'm going to put a little bit of this black, going to put a little bit of water on my brush too. In this guy here, maybe a little couple of windows or something. So I'm just making dark marks so it looks like you've got the light spots and the dark spots from little windows, maybe a dark area at the top. And of course you can, you know, spin this into whatever Eiffel Tower decorations you want. I'm going to put some dark up at the top as well, just to kind of follow suit with what I was doing with the other areas. Maybe a little bit down that upper tower part, maybe a tiny bit down the center in through here, or in some of these X marks. So you could just bring little tiny bits of the black, giving you more dimension in these guys. So again, just watered down black is what I'm doing right now to give myself a little bit more fullness to this. And then if you wanted to add a little bit of highlight to it, you could pick up a touch of white on your brush, and you could add little kind of pops of highlights here and there. Maybe just little bits of information to say that maybe it's a shiny object and it's reflecting you know, something off in the distance. And I think that's all I'm going to be doing for my Eiffel Tower. You could, of course, you know, finesse yours anymore if you want to. You know, you could put stuff hanging off of it. You could really have fun with this. I think I like mine the way that it is, so I'm going to just leave it. And then we are going to be using, I think I want to use my large bristle brush for the next step. So you can put this brush away, take out your large bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the base coat for all of the foliage on the trees. And there's a little section behind the trees that we're going to do too. I don't know what to call that, so we're just calling it foliage on the trees. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint. The colors I'm going to use are magenta, brown, white, and my lavender. I think that's it. And I'm going to use my number 6 round brush to premix one more custom color, which I'm going to call dark pink. So I have premixed that color on my palette here. How I achieved this color is mostly magenta, and then I added a tiny bit of brown and a tiny bit of white to it. So I wanted my darker tone of pink to be more on the earthy side and less fuchsia type of look. So that's where the I added too much white, so we're going to add more magenta and a touch more brown. So that's where the brown is coming into play, so it can neutralize my color for me and not make it so vibrant in tone. I'm going to have nice soft tones on top of it to give it dimension, but this is the color I'm choosing to use today. So once I've got that in play, what I'm going to do, I'm putting my mixing tool away, and I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of my lavender plus my dark pink plus a touch of white. So I have 3 colors on my brush right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this out of focus area that's going to be, we have a tree line here, we've got some bushes here, and some bushes here. And there's a little sliver right back here that's going to be of a lighter value in color. And I want it to, so the trees pop out. So that's where these 3 colors are coming into play. So I'm just going to kind of tap my brush and allow for this lighter tone to transpire. So I'm picking up a little bit more white because I know I'm going to want it to be pretty darn light in through here. And I'm just using a circular type of brush stroke. I don't need it to do anything super fancy right now, just kind of getting a light value in here. And then I can put a little bit of it over in through here as well. This is going to be underneath the tree line, so it'll pop out. It'll allow the bottom of the tree line to pop out. I think that looks pretty good. Just going to bring this up here just to make sure I don't miss any spots. And if you want to add more pink anywhere, you could certainly pick up a little bit of that dark pink and add that anywhere, just so you have different tones, so it's not just one flat color. So that looks pretty good. So once I've got that in place, I can wash my brush, and I'm going to, where do I want to start? I think I'm going to start with my big, huge tree line. So we've got kind of distant trees here, and then we've got, for perspective purposes, we've got a huge tree that's really close to us here, and they're all kind of going up in that direction. So I'm going to start with my dark pink color, and I'm going to start right above this area in through here. I'm going to just kind of be pushing and mushing my paint into the canvas, allowing for almost circular brush strokes, but not 100% where you see the swirls. This is just going to be my base coat. You're going to see some spots where you see the background. That's totally fine. You could dot it if you wanted to. If you don't like the swirly type of look, the dotting will definitely give you more of the leaf texture. So as you're going through it, if you want to just kind of allow for leaf texture on those edges, you can certainly just go and dot through it. As I'm going up towards the top, I am going to use a lot of this dark pink over here on this right hand side and towards the top. But as I scoot over towards that left hand side, I am going to use a little bit more white on my brush, so that way I've got the start of some lighter values in here. You could also, if you wanted deeper, darker values, you could also pick up a touch of brown. So if you want some dark stuff in through here, you could really play with those tones now as the base coat, and then we'll add the more dimensional elements as we progress through the painting. So that's pretty good. I'm going to put a couple more of these mid-tones in through here, and now I'm going to start picking up a tiny bit of white with my dark pink, and you'll start to see these additional tones start to emerge. And again, I don't need the whole thing to be fully rendered at this point. This is just giving me my start to my beautiful trees and all of the atmospheric process to getting the texture within them. So that looks good for a start over in through there. These little guys down here, they're going to just be merging into the landscape back there, so I don't really need to do much to them. I've got a couple in through here. I'm not going to wash my brush. I think I'm just going to pick up some of my dark pink with whatever little white part was left on my brush, and just kind of give myself this top tree line in through here. I definitely, for me, want it to kind of cross over the edge of my tower and just kind of hide this little corner here. So if you want to put a little bit more white paint on your brush to make sure you get good coverage there, you can certainly do that. So this is white plus my dark pink. I'm going to take this all the way down in through here. And if you don't get perfect coverage right now, don't worry. We have one more layer to go on these trees. And just kind of bringing this all the way down and getting it to disappear right behind there. And then I'm just going to pick up my dark pink. And I'm bringing this all the way down to this lavender area. So I'm just going to dot it right now with my dark pink. And because I had the white on my brush at the top and I'm not picking up white anymore, it's going to get a little bit darker as it comes down. And I might even pick up a little bit of brown right at the bottom of these trees, just so I can get some extra dimension down there. And again, I'm bringing it right down to that light lavender color. And you don't need this to be a super straight line. You can pull some of them down a little bit farther. Now I can pick up a touch of that brown if I wanted to, and just kind of give myself a little bit of darkness down at the bottom of those. But again, we've got another step going on these, so don't worry about that being super perfect. I feel like my brush is overloaded right now, which means that there's a lot of paint within my bristles and I'm not able to control that tip. So I'm not going to wash my brush, but I am going to give it a good squeeze in my paper towel, and I'm kind of like squeezing out the paint that was within the bristles. And now I've got a lot on my paper towel that I could use if I wanted to. But I want to start to add the smaller bush line in through here. So that's why I needed to be a little bit more in control with my brush. So I just wanted to be able to make sure I had that control. And then I want another little bush line in through here. So this is where it's going to meet my, my road or my path. So you could even go kind of a little bit left to right like this. This is just a really tiny area in through here. And I feel, I'm not sure if maybe just a tiny little essence of that in through there. I got some trees coming on in through, the tree trunks coming here, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there, but I think this is a great start. So once you've got this done, we are going to be using the number 6 round brush for the next step. So you can put the large bristle brush away, take out the number 6 round, and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint some tree trunks and branches. I'm using my number 6 round brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these mostly in like a silhouetted type of appearance. Again, I don't really need to do too, I want this to be very painterly. I feel like that the drama of just the simplistic nature of it kind of can add a bit of beauty. So we're going to just go for some simplistic kind of tree trunks and branches. So I'm going to take my brush, put a little bit of water on it. I'm using my black paint to start with some water on it. So again, it's more of like an ink consistency. So I can do some skinny trees and some wide trees. I want this with a lot of perspective. So I'm going to do a row of trees, a row of tree trunks coming off of these trees, and then I'm going to have a row of tree trunks coming off of this big mass in through here, and then we'll do some branches going up in through these trees in through here, and then later we'll put leaves on top of the branches. So it's going to look kind of not awesome after this step, but at least we'll have our tree trunks and branches in place. So I'm going to start this section over here, and really you can have your tree trunks landing in the land in through here, this little yellowy type of area. For these guys over here, you can certainly have some of these branches kind of going up into the tree if you want to. Not necessary, but if you wanted to just give it that extra bit of information, you can certainly do that. I'm starting with this left tree because I feel as though it's kind of the closest to the viewer, and it you'd probably see the most detail on it. The tops are all going to be super fluffy with with the blossoming leaves later, so don't worry about that. You could put little tiny ones. This is going to be a bush line in through here, so you could put some more narrow type of tree trunks kind of behind that bush line if you wanted to, and that will really give you some good amount of depth in the painting to make it look like there's different levels to your to the landscape here. Just those little kind of nuances, again, just help to give more depth, more information. Even that little cityscape that we did may not have even been necessary, but because we put it in, it allows that viewer to travel right through that canvas. So that's good over here. As I come down here, maybe I do a couple of tiny ones back in through here, not even caring if I put too many branches or anything like that, just kind of giving the illusion. And they're going to get closer and smaller in respect to these ones over on the left hand side. So I can just, I'm hardly pressing my brush. I'm putting a lot of these in front of the bush line, and then as I travel back in through here, I can just really kind of make these tiny little streaks, and that's going to allow the viewer to understand that there's a bunch of little trees just going off in the distance. And if you felt that the black was too harsh as you're going off in the distance like that, you could certainly pick up a little bit of brown and white to dull it down if you want, but they'll look better with their darkness once we finish out the trees and the bushes and all that good stuff. So I think that looks pretty good for the tree line over here. The one on the right, let me just put a little bit more darkness down at the bottom of some of these. There we go. The one over here on the right, I'm going to do my biggest tree first, which is the one closest to us, and then we'll make the smaller ones afterwards. So the biggest one is going to come right down to the bottom of my canvas. I think I'm just going to let it go right off the bottom corner of my canvas. And again, you can use any thickness of paint that you want. I tend to use my paint thinned out a lot of the time, or in a more fluid state, because it allows me to get that paint to sink into those little crevices of the canvas. And then I can always just add more paint on top of it as I go through the process. So that's just my way of kind of getting those areas to look nice and finished. Of course, you can do that later too if you want. There's going to be a little trouble spot where the landscape meets the sky behind this tree. Over here too, but that's going to be light and fluffy leaves, blossoms. But in through here, I'm going to put a lot of branches kind of crossing over this too, so that way when I do get to my final details on it, if I've missed any spots, or if there's still that trouble spot where you can see the background through it, it'll be disguised by all of these branches that I'm putting on. So I'm going up really high with this one. This is going to be that front tree that is going to be kind of anchoring this whole tree line. And for me, as I'm building trees, I really concentrate on kind of making them a little bit wider down at the bottom and more narrow up at the top, where those branches, the farther away from the tree trunk that they go, the more slender they will be. That's just the tree that's always in my head when I'm thinking about making trees. So you can certainly make yours whatever way that you want, but just that's the kind of tree I like to make a lot. I know that I have definitely standard kind of ways of making things, just based on the way that I paint. You don't need these branches to be visible all the way through. You can just have little peekaboo spots, but know if you do a branch that you're not 100% in love with, that we will have the stage to put more leaves on there that will help to disguise any of these. So I'm thinking that that's pretty good for the branches and stuff on this one. I'm not even concerned, like I have a couple of spots where my bristles are splitting on me as I'm doing these more narrow ones. I'm not concerned about that because I'm going to have leaves on that. So any areas that you're not totally happy with, know that you're going to be able to cover them with leaves. I also think that it's a good thing when you're doing a tree of this size to make sure that you put it off the canvas, put those branches off the canvas or extend them past the canvas so it doesn't look like you've chopped your tree off. When you do it with the branches, it'll force you to put the leaves there as well so it'll look nice and full. So now I'm going to go ahead and do maybe a couple more behind it. So I think I want one kind of somewhere in through here, having a little peekaboo of that land behind it. I'm going to have probably these trees maybe with on a little sidewalk or something. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to finish these bottoms, but so this one is going to be where it splits to the top is going to be shorter or come down farther on the canvas because it is farther away from the viewer. So you can put these branches you know, so they look like they're coming out the other side. Don't really put too much thought into it other than make that tree smaller than this big one. And then I can do the same thing. I can do even smaller ones. You could even put, you know, the little illusion of a couple back in through here, landing in that little land area back there if you wanted to. And then I think I'm just going to put maybe one or two more in through here. Oh, I probably went up too high. Something like that. And again, I'm making them land higher on the landscape because they're farther away. So something like this I think is satisfying my painterly eye. And of course you can fiddle with yours as much as you want to. We're going to be going back to that large brush, the large bristle brush for the next step, so you can just get it out and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the leaves on the trees. We'll tackle the bushes in a future step, but I just want to go with leaves on the trees. So we're going to use our large bristle brush to paint. I am making one more custom color though that I will be doing with my number 6 round brush to demonstrate. The colors I'm going to be using are magenta, dark pink, black, brown, white, and that should be it. So I'm going to make myself a dark magenta color, which I have magically done on my palette here. I put it next to my dark pink so you could see the difference between the two. How I got to this was I used mostly magenta, but then I added a tiny bit of black and a tiny bit of brown. So the dark pink has white in it and no black. The dark magenta has black and no white. So that's a little bit too dark, so I need more magenta. And it's going to be just, it's a shade, probably 2 shades darker than my dark pink, and it's going to add or provide me with some great shadowy tones in my trees. So what I'm looking to do with my trees, that's a good color for me. It almost looks like a light plum color, but we're going to just call it dark magenta. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be creating darkness at the bottom of my trees with my this line of trees with my dark magenta and maybe a little bit of brown. And then over on this big guy over here, I really just want to put another layer on my leaves so they look nice and full and have some of them kind of crossing over my branches. I know that I had mentioned that on my last step that I was going to be using black, brown, and white on the tree trunks and branches, but I never used the brown and the white. I might add little highlights to those tree trunks later, but I missed it in the last step, so if I decide I want to put it later, I certainly will. So where I'm going to start with a little bit of my dark magenta plus a touch of brown on my brush, just a little itty bitty bit, and I'm going to just kind of dot at the bottoms of these trees. And you don't have to do it whereby you're painting the entire row in a very linear way, just kind of dotting these colors down at the bottom, maybe in almost a curving kind of silhouette or curving type of shape is going to give you that appearance of the bottoms of the trees. You could even bring a couple of them down a little bit farther if you felt that that would benefit you. I'm using the tip or the corner of my brush as I get to these smaller ones. If this brush is too big for you to work in these smaller trees, you could certainly switch to your number 6 round brush, but I often like using big brushes, so I just go for it. So that's looking pretty good to me. I've got some good shadowy colors down in through here. Now I'm just going to give my brush a kind of a squeeze in my paper towel. And now I'm going to go into that dark magenta, no brown this time, and start working my way up that tree. Just a little bit. I don't need much, and maybe even kind of in between some of the trees. I'm just being mindful to not go too high with this color, so just kind of tapping towards the bottom of those trees. Now I can start using my dark pink. So I can use my dark pink as another layer in here as I'm working my way up that tree. So this is the dark pink. I didn't wash my brush, just kind of tapping it in here. So dark pink. And if you wanted to add more color to them or different tones, you could certainly add the magenta, which I will add in a minute, but right now just kind of want to get a coat of this in here and just kind of tapping it. Now I'm going to give my brush a squeeze on my paper towel. I'm going to pick up a little bit of magenta plus a touch of white. So magenta and white are going on my brush right now, and this is going to give me those beautiful pops at the top of these trees. Something like that. And again, make it chaotic. Don't make it all the same thing. I just picked up more magenta to just kind of give that a little sporadic look to it. I don't want it to be too overwhelming in the same color. So, you could certainly, if you like the magenta more, you could use that more. If you want the lighter bits of the white to make it look like there's little speckles of sunshine on there, you can certainly use that. I would just be cautious about not using too much white as its own color. Up here, maybe light pinks or even light peaches, that would definitely work. So if it's all super white, you can certainly add even just a touch of yellow. I didn't say I was using yellow, but a touch of yellow on your brush, and that can give you these little, kind of sunshiny moments in that pink. So you can certainly have fun with that. I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good. And of course you can, fiddle with it as much as you want. I'm going to move on to the big tree now, if I can ever stop these guys. It's so hard once you start going. It's like, oh, I love doing this. Let me just keep doing it more. So this guy over here, I do have to wash my brush because I have white and yellow on there. So I'm going to wash my brush right now. And I'm going to start it the way that I started these guys, which was with my brown and my dark magenta. So brown and dark magenta. And I'm going to just kind of pop in where I feel these darker notes would probably sit, down in through here, maybe down at the bottom here a little bit. And it's okay if you cross over that trunk. That would absolutely work. So don't feel you shouldn't do that. I'm picking up some of my dark magenta right now just to kind of get more depth inside here, and maybe a little bit more coming up in through here. So just kind of tapping it in. I don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot. I just want to give some nice, depth over there. Now I'm going to pick up some of my dark pink as I travel out and into those lighter areas. So dark pink on my dirty brush. So again, it's just allowing me to put another layer on here. You can, of course, cross it over your trunk or your branches and allow for that extra depth to happen in those trees. And just be, know that these trees are kind of, we're seeing this one the most. So that's going to be the one that's going to be the heaviest. And that's where you should just focus your energy and most of what you're painting is that tree, and this other stuff is just the little trees behind it. So you don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot to those. This is just your big tree is going to be your big focus. And I keep picking up my dark pink to just kind of get up in through here. Now, like I did with the other trees, I'm going to pick up some of my magenta just so I can have that real pink springy kind of look in through here. And again, if you wanted to add some peachy tones, you certainly could do that, but I'm really just concentrating on my spring pink, I guess. That's where my eye is wanting to go right now, so I'm just going there. And again, just magenta right now. And you can see I'm kind of I stayed away from that left-hand side of the tree for a little bit. I'm getting ready to move there now, though. So now I'm going to pick up some magenta with a little bit of white. And again, I don't want it to go too white, so I kind of smooshed it on my brush together, the magenta and the white. And I can just kind of pop these little guys in through here, just allowing for that vibrancy, but still having the darker tones from the other leaves underneath it. So I think that's, you know, one of the keys to just not making it look too flat is allowing for all those colors that you put in there to have a purpose and to, you know, to help you build that tree in the way that you want. So again, I'm just going magenta and pink. I mean, magenta and white is on my brush right now. And then that's looking pretty. It's looking springtimey. And then if you wanted to, you could certainly add a little bit more lightness with a touch more white. And you just kind of keep fluffing it out until you've got as much fluff in that tree as is visually appealing to you. You can continue to add more white. You can continue to add more pink. You know, I'm putting little pops of the white kind of on these edges here, just so these little edges kind of pop out just a little bit more. And then I think that looks really fun. I think I would like to visit this place. If you always know it's somewhere or that you're doing good when you look back at it and you're like, I'd like to be sitting in that park right now. Or, you know, that's whenever it brings you pleasure, that's when you know that you've hit your mark. And then let's see, what are we going to do for the next step? I want to use my number 6 round for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this big brush away, take out a medium-sized round brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the ground and all these little bushes. So the grass, so the ground with the bushes. I'm going to be using my number 6 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are light yellow, black, probably my dark magenta, white, and maybe some brown. And I'm not sure what other colors, maybe magenta as well, but I'll call them out as I use them. So I'm going to start with the grass, which is going to be this light yellow area. I want to put some little bits of highlights throughout it, and I think I want to pull this grass around the bottoms of these trees because they just feel like they're in the middle of the road to me. That doesn't make much sense, so I'm going to put that light yellow in there. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of the light yellow. We're just going to take care of this first so I don't forget to do it later, and just kind of making it look like these trees are kind of in the grass. I'll put like a little sidewalk edge or something on it, but they just feel like they're floating over here to me. I wanted to put them kind of like in a park when you see them. The landscape trees, sometimes they are on pavement, but it's not reading well to me, so we're gonna just put them in some grassy area. There we go. That makes more sense to me. And then I'm even going to pull this yellow a little bit farther down here, so it almost kind of disappears off in the distance over there. And then Just kind of softening this around the edges. That looks good. So now with my dirty brush, I have light yellow. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white as well, and I'm going to put some sunshiny areas in this bit of grass over in through here. So if you bump into your trees, don't worry, you can always make little fiddling adjustments to correct stuff like that, but I wanted it to look like there was a little bit more sunshine on this grass back here before we put those bushes on. So just adding that little bit of extra white in through there helps me to, again, just add a little bit more something where I'm not making it a flat color. I'm allowing these different tones to participate in the painting. And then I just picked up some of that light yellow, making sure I've got everywhere hit with a second coat. So that looks pretty nice. And you could, of course, add green or whatever other tones you wanted if you wanted it to have more realistic colors to it. But again, I was just going for something that had spring vibes, but maybe not necessarily realistic colors. So there we go. That looks nice to me. So now I'm going to hit those bushes. I'm going to wash my brush. I want them to be kind of dark at the bottom, indicating shadows, and then light at the top. And I'm also going to have like a little sidewalky thing over here. So I'm going to use black with some water. So black and water, again, my thinned out version. I'm going to put, now when I'm doing this on these bushes, I don't want to do a straight line. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the bushes, and then I kind of allow it to blend into the grassy area. So kind of left and right to blend it into the grassy area. But then I wiggle my brush up so it provides me with that kind of little textural shadows going up the bush. You could be using a smaller brush too if you felt that would benefit you. And as you go deeper down the landscape, of course, the less or the smaller of an area you'll want to create. So something like that. And of course, if you needed to switch to a smaller brush, you could certainly do that too. And again, just black with some water. I'm going to do the same thing with this guy in through here. So this is a larger area, and it's going to meet the walkway. So I can have it just kind of blending into that walkway, just kind of going left to right, giving myself a little bit of darkness in through there, and then just blending it up. So I have those dark tones going up the bottom of that that bush, and maybe just pull it down just a little bit further down here at the bottom of that yellow. So it looks like there's maybe a little shadow or something there. I'm going to do the same thing over here just to give myself something anchoring this. So maybe there's a little edge to the grass. It just kind of works its way into the street. Put in a little bit more water on my brush just to kind of allow that to blend out. I'm going to just wipe it with my paper towel. There we go. And once I got this taken care of, it's not of satisfactory level to me yet. There we go. And then I'm just going to blend this out. I will add more to this street in a minute, but we're just going to blend this out so it looks like it belongs there. Perfect. All right, so now I'm going to hit those bushes, and then we'll come back to the street. I'm washing my brush, and this is where I can use any magenta combination to get these bushes to happen. So I'm going to start with the dark magenta, and just kind of, again, start at the bottom of those bushes, just kind of tapping it in. Dark magenta at the bottom. Everything's springtime. And again, use whatever tones you want. You can certainly switch this up if you want. I'm thinking this is fine over here, but if you felt that you needed to do anything, maybe just back where the grass meets the that light purple, you could certainly pop something in back there if you needed to. Now I'm going to pick up I don't want to go too much lighter than that, so I think I'm gonna just, let's go with just my light pink, or my dark pink, and see if this gives me my tones that I want. I feel like I want something a little bit more exciting than that. I'm gonna mix magenta with yellow, and on my dirty brush, kind of want like a orangey-ish kind of tone. Let's go with that. So I have mixed kind of like an orangey tone that I'm going to use with a combination of my magenta and my dark pink, just to give me different values and information back here. So maybe this will end up looking different than the bushes up top or the trees up top. So these are just little tricks that as you're going through your painting, if everything is starting to look the same and you're trying to make it painterly but yet everything's looking the same, throw in a new tone. Throw in, like I just threw in that orangey tone just to kind of allow it to be broken up a little bit. If you wanted it to be, you know, very systematic and same everywhere, then that would be fine. Go ahead and use the colors that you used everywhere else. But for me, it was a little bit too one note, if you will, for me. So that's why I wanted to add a little bit of that that orange ties also with the warmth in the sky. So it served a multiple purpose. Just picking up a little bit more of my dark magenta, just pull this up just a little bit in through here. There, that looks pretty good. And then down in through here, again, make it into whatever you feel is working. And then at the bottom of the trees, I do need something to give them a little bit, so they don't just look kind of stuck in the ground. So you can, I'm washing my brush, I'm gonna pick up just a little bit of brown and black, just a touch of brown and black. Not sure if I said I was using brown, but if you wanted to just kind of rub out a shadow underneath them, I haven't really designated where the light source is, so just imagine it to be above them. You can certainly pull out a shadow underneath their underneath them, and that'll at least give them some grounding, so they're not looking floaty, and just darkening the ground underneath them. And same thing over here, just putting a little bit of darkness underneath them. Nothing major, just something that would help give it a little bit more dimension, so it's not so flat. You could also put on these guys here, you could put grass. So if I wanted a little bit of grass kind of pulling up, I could go with a little bit of yellow and white on my brush at the same time and just pull up just little kind of pieces of grass at the bottoms of these trees. So if you're finding that it looks like unfinished at that bottom of these couple of trees, you could certainly pull up a couple of pieces of grass. I did it with a little yellow and white. You could certainly do it with whatever you want. And then you could also put a little kind of light stuff at the edge of this piece of land where it meets that kind of road. And then the road itself, I don't need to do a whole heck of a lot. I feel like I can just get away with a couple of maybe shadows on this side and lightness here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown, black, and my tan. Didn't say I was going to use tan. So brown, black, and tan. And just kind of give myself a little bit of a messiness over here on this left-hand side, and then get it to tie into the road with that tan. And again, you could really make this super gravelly. I'm going to pick up some white as I'm coming down this center, because I am going to have a couple of things in my road in a little bit. So, and this will just give you the direction of the road. This light spot will draw the eye's attention in through there. I'm picking up a little bit more black just to kind of get a couple little finessed darker marks in through here. And then you just fiddle with it. You can really make it as intense as you want or as subtle as you want. And then I'm going to be using my small detail brush for the next step. So once you've got this in a place that you enjoy, you can put this brush away, take out a small detail brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna draw or paint some little people. And I think I do want to put a little bit of color on these tree trunks over here, especially the ones that are closest to us. So I'm going to be using my number 0 round. The colors I'm going to use are black, brown, and maybe some of my tan. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So I'm going to start with a little bit of watered down black paint because I'm going to make my little people. And I'm just going for some, like, the simplest people ever. So I'm going to have one kind of close to us and then a couple that are smaller. So I'm going to just put somewhere in this vicinity. I'm just going to give myself a vertical line, something like that. And then a little bit down that vertical line is going to be the person's shoulders. And then kind of giving it a little bit of a V type of shape. Oops, that was a little bit wider than I wanted. A soft V. And then a couple of the legs go a little bit smaller as I get down to the feet. So just think of it as kind of a long, like upside down triangular type of shape that's got shape to it. And then you can put a head on it. Either you can put a little hat, you can put, like, I'm going to put a little hat because I dig putting little hats on these little people. So something like that. And then I'm going to do that for a couple of people. And then I may, I'll put little shadows underneath them. So that'll be my biggest one. And then my tinier ones, I can just make them smaller. But their heads are going to be kind of, you know, almost the same height, maybe just a tiny bit taller on or higher on the canvas, but just really itty bitty. I feel like I might even be using too big of a brush for this, but you could even separate the legs if you wanted a little bit. Oh, holy cow, I don't even know if you can get in as close as on this. I can't even talk. I'm painting so small. little bigger head. There we go, just a little dot for the head. So, I mean, just itty bitty bit. Just try and make them not too wide in proportion, because then they won't look like humans. So you got to give enough height for that slender, for like a human proportion slender build. You could even put this one, maybe this one's holding hands. You're just going to have two people here now because I want to have them holding hands walking through the park. So I'm just going to give myself a little extra body here just because I want to, and something like that. And then I don't really need to do any more people. Maybe there's a little dog over here. Let's put a little doggy. So we got a little doggy with some legs and a little head. Yeah, that looks like a dog. He's cute. He's watching his people over there walk. Anyways, so once I've got my people on, if you want to make a little shadow, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of brown plus a touch of water on my dirty brush, and you can just kind of, that was not aggressive enough. So you can just kind of put a little shadow. I need a little black too. I'm just being very cautious because I'd rather be cautious and have to put more paint on than to not make it the way that I want. So just a little kind of scumbling with your shadow color. I'm doing it kind of in the direction I did my trees because I don't really have a designated light source. So just kind of making sure that they look like they're grounded. That's the primary goal to putting these shadows on. So that looks nice. So now I'm just going to put a little bit of something on this tree trunk here. I'm going to pick up, I'm going to start with just some brown and give myself just a little bit of a texture on the trunk itself. I don't even really need to go up into the branches. I just felt like these trunks were too flat. So, and then maybe a tiny bit of tan. So brown plus a tiny bit of tan. And again, this is just to please my painterly eye, you might find that you really don't need to do this to yours because you're satisfied with the way that it looks. But for me, I have a tough time with flat stuff on my paintings. So unless I'm going all flat, if I'm going all flat like a, you know, purposeful graphic type of a painting, then I can certainly do it, but not when I have all this other dimensional stuff. So I think that looks pretty good. Let me just lighten that, and then there. That's gonna make me happy. And then you can certainly fiddle with yours as much as you want. We're gonna use this same small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry the small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the lower left or the lower right. I'm going to be using my number 0 round brush. I think I'm signing this one in the lower left with black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you can sign yours however you want. You can use your full name, you can make up a fun symbol, you can sign it on the back, you can hide it in the painting. Whatever you want to do for your signature is totally up to you because it's your painting and you get to make those decisions all on your own. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a very pretty spring European landscape image, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.